evening. My name is Mike Haney, and welcome to another edition of 60 Minutes in Black America. Wondered about artificial intelligence and metaverse. Many of you have asked us about those subjects. What do they mean? What are they? Well, we have a phenomenal guest today, Dr. Tyrone Taborn, to explain to us what it is. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to 60 Minutes in Black America. I'm so glad each of you are here. Thank you so much yet last week for viewing with us last week. And I want to make a correction from last week. We had talked about the U.S. Senate race coming up in 2024, and we had mentioned that we had U.S. senators, not we, I did, that we had Tim Scott in South Carolina, as a black U.S. senator, as well as Raphael Warnock in Georgia. And we forgot the irrepressible Corey Jersey. And I appreciate the viewers, particularly Beverly Cooper Wheely, our political activist, that pointed that out. So want to make sure we give a shout out to Cory Booker and our apologies for that oversight. So in the news today, just a couple of news updates before we get to a really good feel hard story with a recent graduate, we lost this year, James Brown, the real James Brown, NFL football player, died on Thursday, the 19th. He was 87 years old. Jim Brown is been said to be the best NFL player in the history of the game, averaging over 100 yards per game for 9 consecutive years. He also led the Cleveland Browns to the 1964 NFL championship at that time, because there was no Super Bowl, with a score over the Baltimore Colts 24-0. Jim Brown, good human being, as someone described, many heroic things, but not necessarily a hero. We know that Jim starred in a lot of flicks back in the 60s and 70s when they had black exploitation films. He starred in The Dirty Dozen, starred with Pam Grier, who, and Muhammad Ali being recognized when he decided that he wasn't going to join the service. Jim got all of the famous athletes together and said that they had to rally around and support Muhammad Ali at that time. So he was a renowned activist that believed that America was American. He was a controversial figure, as well, as when Kanye West visited Donald Trump in the White House. Jim Brown was there as well, and said that he felt that Donald Trump had a uneven playing field when it came to media and politics. So he was a bit controversial, but nonetheless, Jim Brown, football legend. And also, Jim Brown was described by the Lacrosse Hall of Fame as the best lacrosse player ever. So here you have a guy who was born in St. Simons Island, Georgia, who is the best NFL player, they say, the NFL, and the best lacrosse player back in the 50s and 60s, when lacrosse wasn't really a game that many blacks played. He was described as the best lacrosse player. He also played basketball and ran track at Syracuse University, where he graduated in 1958 with a Bachelor of Science degree. So our condolences to the Brown family. And Jim, thanks for all the excitement. Even though I didn't get a chance to see him, you could not help but feel the impact of Jim Brown. Hey, today we have a very, very special guest, in the studio. You know that we always talk about young people. We celebrate young people. We talk about the young people that work with our production team that have recently graduated, three of them earlier this month or last month from college. And so now we have Shania Johnson, someone very close to me, a wonderful human being that graduated yesterday from Longwood University in Farmville, Virginia. And if you don't know what Farmville is or don't know the history of Farmville and that whole area up in that region of Virginia, it has some significant historical information, particularly relative to Black people. So let's bring Shania in here and let's talk to her for a minute or two. Hey, Shania, how are you? Congratulations.
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on graduating. You just graduated yesterday from Longwood University.
Yes, sir.
What did you get your degree in?
Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with a concentration in accounting.
And you also were the recipient of what I consider a very prestigious award up there. It was the Joan of Arc Award for Excellence. Talk about that for a second and the excellent, quiet person that you are.
So that award is given to students who show leadership, whether throughout their college or in their local community, as well as having high GPA and high academic excellence.
Wow. And you did that in 3 years. You graduated college in 3 years, right?
Yes, sir.
And you did so with some very, very extenuating circumstances. You lost your mom last year, and that had to be a motivation to you to finish school. You want to talk about that for a minute, what that meant to you, and how instrumental your mom, dad were in your life in getting to that point of graduating college?
Yes, that event definitely was a huge obstacle, but it showed me that, you know, in life there are going to be obstacles and you have to choose whether you're going to give up or you're going to push forward. And that was like the most important thing is not to give up on your dreams that
I hear you. I hear you. Well, we all feel for you. We know that you did a remarkable thing, as you said, hanging in there and, doing that not just for yourself, but for your family, your mom. And I'm sure your mom is very proud of your accomplishments and what you have done to this point. And what are your plans now? What are you going to do now?
I now plan on going into either private or public accounting.
Make a lot of money, count a lot of money.
Yeah.
I hear you. Well, Dr. Taborn, matter of fact, let's bring Dr. Taborn in for a second before we get to his big introduction. Dr. Taborn, as we were talking in the pre-show briefing, said to you what? He said that, hey, send him your resume. Dr. Taborn, as we find out a little bit later, does that. He places graduate. Dr. Taborn, anything you want to say to Shania?
I would certainly say that your mom is very, very proud right now. And, we all stand on the shoulders and it takes a community to make things happen. So you just keep this in mind. You have a trusted community around you and you have people who will always be there to help you. What I tell young people all the time, just reach out. Don't be scared. We're touchable. We will return your phone calls because when one win, we all win.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
You're welcome.
Well, Dr. Taborn, we'll see you back in a bit. Hey, Shania, listen, we're very, very, very proud of you. I know your family's proud of you. There is no doubt that you're going to be successful. You are a power of example. And as Dr. Taborn says, when one wins, we all win. And I think our producer, Leon Thomas, says that continually as well. So we're going to embrace you and ensure your success. And congratulations again. Anything you want to say before you go? I see a sign there. We don't usually read them. I love you, Shania. Wow, you got love coming through the screen. Anything you want to say out there to the viewers? Anybody out there that is on the cusp of finishing school? What sort of motivation do you have for them?
Just want to let you all know that if there's anything that you want to achieve, you can. Anything that you set your mind to, it is possible, because the word can't should not be in your vocabulary. Anything that you want to do and set your mind to, you can achieve.
Wow. Hey, that's powerful. That's very powerful, Shania, particularly given the situation that you've experienced over the course of the past few years. We'll be tracking you, bringing you back, particularly when you get that high paying job, counting all that money. Who knows? Maybe you'll be counting Dr. Taborn's money. But thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations again, okay?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic, man. It is just so absolutely wonderful. We celebrate our young people in this show. We mentioned Ray Gordon, we mentioned Jasmine Pollock, Jeremiah Nixon, and we have a bunch of others. And if you have a young person that's graduating from post-secondary education or even secondary education, you want to shout them out, why not? What's the better thing to do than to let us know and let the world know that there's a success? Because as you hear, when Dr. Taborn comes on and what he is doing through his STEM city, and we'll explain that once we get through some other definitions. It's all about our young people. It's not about reaching back. It's about looking forward and how can we get our young people in a position where they become our leaders because of their knowledge. And there's no doubt that when you get a young person like Shania Johnson, that will be instrumental in our world, that our world's in a better place. Hey, so I said at the top of the hour, we're going to talk about and define as best as we can, what is artificial intelligence? What is metaverse? I tell you, I am so confused. And then I heard something about Facebook when they changed their name to Meta. I have no idea. Well, we hope to get some clarity today as we talk to Dr. Tyrone Taborn, who is a community leader that undertakes a lot of initiatives, serves on a lot of boards. He has his own company that his company focuses on minority media services that connect diverse, talented people in science, technology, engineering, math fields to leading employers. Over a quarter of a century, CCG has built lasting partnerships with top companies, U.S. government agencies, and educational institutions through its annual conferences, magazines, and the metaverse. In addition to that, because I'm not going to read all 8 pages of this guy's accomplishments, man, I think he's younger than me. And he didn't give this to me. This is what I researched. He is one of the top 50 recognized important African Americans in technology. And he was named that by blackmoney.com. So who better could we have here to walk us through and begin our education on something that is intriguing? Is it good? It's bad? I know that it's been on the news a lot as our government has been trying to define how do they regulate artificial intelligence? What is the definition of metaverse? So let's bring Dr. Taborn into the stream now and get him to help us along. I promised him today he won't hear much from me because there's not much I know on this. Dr. Taborn, good to see you. Thank you so much for being on 60 Minutes in Black America.
Mike, it's absolutely a pleasure, and thank you for inviting me. We're talking about such an important topic facing the world today. But you just had someone on your show that is even more important. You know, I often say today is tomorrow that started yesterday. And if we want to invest in our future, it starts today, because what we have in front of us actually started yesterday. And there were so many people who made sacrifices and who did so much. So for me, I just kind of keep that whole thing in perspective. Today is tomorrow that started yesterday.
Wow, that is powerful, and this is really a 3-4 hour class that we have to take. And so all of our learning can't only happen in a 55, 60-minute podcast. We've got Dr. Taborn here to get us started and help us with some definitions, because I'm really excited to get to what he has founded called STEM City. and understand what STEM study means, understand what STEM study is doing with our young people in our communities and our adults as well as young people. But before that, Dr. Taborn, just a very simple question, sir. First one of two for me. What is metaverse, man? What are they talking about when they talk about metaverse?
Metaverse is an immersive community. It's a place where we all can go, and we're immersed in it. We can there's collaboration, and there's a live ability for us to exchange. There's 4 pieces that make up the metaverse. Number 1, digital agency. That means that you control your data and who you are. Number 2, you are able to have live conversations with a number of people within a digital world. 3, you're able to create brand new content, almost like machine learning, as you participate. For example, you and I right now are creating digital content. Number 4, and I think probably one of the more important pieces, is that there's an economy built under ultimately what a metaverse is. So the metaverse has always been with us. The technology platforms have changed. But let me give you one of my favorite ways of describing the metaverse. You're sitting in a movie theater and you're looking at the movie. That is the current web that we have. It's one way. It's already predicted. You don't interface with it. The knowledge is coming one way. Now, let's assume that you're able to get up and go into the movie. And now things are happening around you, but you still have no control. That is things like virtual reality, 3D interaction. So you're sitting in the movie, things are happening around you. You don't see it in 2D, but you see it in 3D. That's virtual reality, augmented reality, those kind of terms that you've heard. Now, this is the metaverse. Everyone in the theater can get up and join you in the movie. Not only can they join you in the movie, but you guys can write the movie. You decide what's happening in that screen. You're deciding what the story is. You're making up content as you go along. That is a metaverse.
Wow. So is that a matter of brainwave interceptors and guessing what I'm thinking, or actual action and talking? Because it's kind of scary, when you talk about brainwave interceptors and you talk about facial recognition and those type of things. What exactly, how does that all happen? So you got someone like myself or our viewers who may have young people, grandkids, kids, and they see the kids with these big goggles. Is this a tool of the metaverse? What is that?
Sure. And in fact, you actually don't need the headset. The way I described it, the headsets are not the headsets in and of themselves are not the metaverse. They are tools that you can add on to the metaverse. The metaverse is actually those pieces that I talked about, is the ability of us to do what we do in real life. You might hear the word digital twin. You and I having this kind of interaction. Let's assume that 100 people, 1,000 people can also join us right away, and we can have this connection with one another, the same way we would do at a conference or we would do at a meeting. What changes here, though, is that we're doing it in the digital world, and the metaverse allows us to have control over your avatar or your personal information. It allows you to have ownership of the data, the ones and O's that make up everything we do in programming. You can own that in a metaverse concept. So there's nothing special about the metaverse other than those 4 pieces, and that we're using now a technology that has truly empowered us to create communities and special communities in a digital way. And I'll talk about that a little bit later about what blockchain is and decentralization of data that allows us to have this metaverse. But for our listeners, the real key here is that the metaverse is always available. It's 24/7. You can always collaborate with other people, and that you have what we call control over your digital agency. And a lot of people have heard about who controls the information that you generate. Well, currently, obviously, we don't. Facebook controls it. Anyone who collects your banking information, those are the people who control your data. In a true metaverse setting, you are the one who actually controls your data.
So is that a setting that we all should strive for? I mean, we give these social media outlets, we give these bank our because maybe we don't know better and what we're giving up anyway. How do we educate ourselves so it's a good give and what's a bad give?
Mike, that is an excellent question. Ask yourself this: why are these things free? Because if you're not paying for it and you're able to go onto a social media platform and you simply sign up and you pay nothing, then you are paying something. You're paying with your data. So these organizations, and rightly so, it's just set up that way now, and that's the way the technology has existed. You will go in, you will give your data to these companies, and currently whoever owns the servers own the data. So when you go into any social media and you give that information, where does that information go? It's stored on a server. That's why you hear about these hacks all the time and data is distributed. So the person who owns the data is the person who owns the hardware, the server. Now, you're producing this show right now, and let's assume at some point, thousands of people will see this show. Well, you don't know who they are. The person who owns this show is the person, if it's being aired on YouTube, YouTube is going to have all of that data. And then YouTube will use that data to go to advertisers and build a whole advertising campaign around that data. You cannot do that. You are simply producing content. You're bringing tons of viewers who will also bring their data, and you're turning it over to to the social media that in turn will go out and sell that data, which is very, very powerful. Now, let's assume you can turn that around, that they no longer own your data, but you own your data. So there's going to be a lot of competition for those individuals when people want your data because they no longer can get it for free the way they're able to do now. And that is where the metaverse drives us.
So the only way that I can control my data now, because just about everything that we do internet based, we don't know, whether we deal with a bank or we deal with a social media platform, what happens when we click on something because how do we protect ourselves? I mean, just some of the basics in terms of our viewership now that, because, I'm even further intrigued. How do we protect ourselves from our data going anywhere? I think Facebook just settled a case for like $800 million because it sold, unbeknownst to me, my information out there. So now they got to pay me $12.10 or whatever that number is. How do we protect ourselves, Dr. T?
Yeah, it's a tough one, and that may be, I don't know about that particular case, but generally this is how data is being used. It may not be your personal data. It may simply be that we know that the demographics of a person who's watching your show most likely will look a certain way. So let's assume with your show, your demographic is going to be college educated, maybe a large number are going to be from a urban area. We know this because we have the IPs. So so when people log into your show, their IP automatically is stored by that server.
Hey, Dr. T, explain to our viewers when you say IP, because we want to break it down.
Sure,
Because
sure.
as I said, they've asked for this. When you talk about
is the
IP,
address. Yeah, the IP is the address to your computer.
and so when we log on there, automatically they know who it is that my viewers are.
That's right. That's right. That's how they can trace back exactly where that happened. So unless you have certain kinds of software that will throw out fake IPs, and that's really detailed, most 99% of the people in the world won't go through that expense. We can trace you back to exactly where you are. You see it on television all the time, the NSI, Hawaiian police and all those other folks. You see the computer guy tracing the computer. It's just like the old days when you could trace back to the telephone, right? And say, oh, where's that person calling from? So your computer does exactly the same thing. They can trace that back.
Now, and they can every place that you have gone on that computer by going to that IP address, find out what your favorite places to shop are, where you're looking to go on vacation. All that stuff is out there in this meta type verse, or is that part of the definition?
It's out there on servers, right? Is out there on servers that are collecting every piece of data. Every time you hit that keyboard, it's being stored. Now, legally, unless you give up your rights, they cannot apply that data to you, Mike. Okay, but have you heard those stories? A guy just, for example, there was a murder, and they were able to go back and look at the person's search history, right? Now, they thought they may have cleaned their browser or their personal computer. That's the browser we're looking at right now. You can go into history and you can clear your browser. So the individual may have thought they had cleared their browser, but all of their search history was still on the original computers. So they are able to go, the police, whoever wants to search, they get a search warrant. They go to the server and they pull up the history. So in this particular case, the person killed their wife, or the wife killed the husband, one of the two. And they were able to go back and see the search history of where they looked up how to buy the poison. How much poison does it take to kill the individual? And that's how they made the case.
I saw that case out in the Midwest, Dr. T. Is this good, Dr. T? Is this a good thing that we are in this age and many of us don't understand when we hit that computer, and then we wonder why Amazon sends us selective stuff based on what our buying patterns are? I mean, is this good?
Yes and no. All of it is good in a sense. What's bad is how people misuse it. Because think about this. You go online, there's so much data out there, you can't possibly know about it. But let's say you have a particular interest. Your particular interest might be information or products that are dealing with a particular artist, music artist. And those are the things that they're going to serve up to you. That's why those particular ads show up. And you might be thinking, why are they sending that stuff to me? But you have an interest. Now, the companies will go out and they will go to those particular companies and they will say, I am going to deliver to you Scientific America. I'm going to deliver to you college-educated people who like podcasts. And that is why that ad would appear on your podcast if it's on YouTube or Facebook or someplace else. They all use that. Keep in mind, they make their money. A large part of their dollars are advertising revenue, which is another reason why media in this country has been, print media has struggled and broadcast media has struggled, because the bulk of the dollars, revenues that are generated, is generated through advertising revenue. And that is why you sign up. Now, let's take this a little bit further. you're bringing, let's say you're bringing 10,000 people to LinkedIn of your friends. Or let's say you're bringing, some of these influencers are bringing in 500,000 people to Facebook. You can't download those emails.
I can't.
You cannot. So you cannot build your own following. They can only access you through those particular pieces. Because if you could do it, I'm sure right now you would have a heck of a major mailing list that you have simply gone through Facebook and download everything. You can download your content, but when you download all of your friends and users, there's a Facebook address to it. It's not their individual address. The same thing with all the other social medias. You can't download the personal information of all of the people that follow you on YouTube.
Wow, that's interesting. Hey, we had a couple of questions I want to get to before we switch to another one, because I absolutely want to save time, but I'm going to let you finish this up.
Sure. But Mike, I really want to explain that. I've just showed you how it currently exists. So when we get into the story of STEM City, the reason this happens now is because it's called centralization of data. All of your data, the person who owns the data, the organizations that own the data are generally the people who own the hardware. Now imagine that data is no longer protected and simply stored on hardware, but now we're protecting the data in and of itself. So you have a choice where that data goes. That is called decentralization of the data. And that is where we start getting into blockchain, cryptocurrency, NFTs, metaverse. That's the world in which we're moving now, is this whole concept of decentralization of the data, which makes hardware only a highway in which to move the data, but the data is no longer owned simply because it sits on the hardware.
Hey, so where do Black and Brown and Indigenous communities, because I know your focus, of your advocacy is with Black, Brown, and Native American, communities, and indoctrinating them to this. Where is the opportunity? Where are we at now? Do we control a lot of this meta in our own communities? Have we monetized it? And I saw a couple of questions in there relative to the monetization of this information for our people and our purposes.
That's exactly where we're going. Yes, this is the decentralization of data is the biggest transformational part of technology since 1959 with the creation of the microchip. Without the microchip, we would not have any of the stuff we have today. Because of the speed, because of storage, the ability to bring technology down to a cell phone. This little phone here, has more computing power than the computers that put man on the moon. All of that came because of that transformation that happened in 1958-59. And during that time, and this is why the deck has always been stacked against us and underrepresented people in technology. In 1958-59, people of color were fighting for public accommodations. We were fighting for civil rights. There were only 5 engineering schools that had Blacks there in 1958-59. So when this technology was created, the microchip, the microprocessor, we did not have enough people to truly participate in that transformational moment of technology. So billions and then trillions of dollars were created. And you have this tremendous wealth gap based on who had the knowledge. Well, you can never get in front of that. And that's why these digital divides exist. You cannot. There's no way, if you gave every kid a computer and you gave every kid a knowledge, at best, we're going to continue to do what we have done, which is contribute to technology, but not have the same wealth that other people have because they were there in the beginning. The deck has been stacked against us. Now, what do we see? We see something similar to 1958-59 with the decentralization of data. Cryptocurrency, blockchain, all of these things.
Hey, Dr. T, talk about crypto for a minute.
Sure.
Talk about crypto for a minute because we've been educating our viewers on crypto. Matter of fact, Jaime Miner was supposed to be on today, but he's got a full show on 60 Minutes in 2 weeks. Crypto, is this still an opportunity for Black people and brown people and indigenous people from your standpoint to be involved and understand?
Look at what crypto, let's take the currency part away and just think about crypto as your data, right? A smart contract is in ways crypto, right? Your health records, being able to protect your health records and have that. All of these things are built on something called blockchain. Very easily, so to wrap your head around it, blockchain basically takes the data that you have, rather than that being stored on one computer, meaning that one company can own it. Your information is basically distributed all over the world. And that data is like broken up. So it may exist on millions and millions of computers throughout the world. And unless you have the key to bring all of that information together, if you don't have the key, no one can ever hack that data, because every time something is created, it goes on this public ledger called a blockchain. I'm not going to get into that because it takes a few minutes to.
Should I be scared?
You should be happy about that, because that is what is creating the ability to own your data. Right now, you can't own your data. As I explained, the person who owns your data is the person who has the computer, right?
The computer.
Now we're moving from protecting the computer to just protecting the data. So any data that's created can be owned. So your show, for example, if you were selling, let's say you wanted to sell your show, you wanted to sell this broadcast. Well, you would have to go to some place that would be the third party to interact between me and you. Because that data, my credit card, would have to go through Visa, MasterCard, American Express, some bank. It would have to go there first, a processing fee, right? Then it would go to you. Now, every step of the way, somebody is controlling that data. They know what I'm spending. They know what you're selling. You can't do it directly between the two of us. Through decentralization, cryptocurrency, we cut out the middle person. I can transfer that information between you and I directly. And that is the biggest fear. That is the real challenge that's going on. And institutions are trying to figure it out before it overwhelms us. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
It sounds like a good thing. And the educational aspect, because it's going to take me more than just this conversation with you today. And that's why hopefully we can get you back, give our viewers information to get access to your information so that we can continue to learn. Same thing about cryptocurrency, because as you said, we can't go back and undo what people have made trillions of dollars off. Now, all of a sudden, we've begun to level the playing field, particularly with our young people getting access in the digital divide. But let's talk about artificial intelligence just for a second before we get into STEM City and what you're doing out there, because I really want to get into that. But what is artificial intelligence? Is it that robot that brought me my food in the restaurant because the restaurant could not hire any people? So they built a robot, and now I've got a robot delivering me food. You know, what is artificial intelligence?
That's so cool. Actually, it's the software, not the robot, right? The robot is the hardware. but the artificial intelligence is actually the software.
Wow.
Okay, but here's the big danger. The big danger is when the hardware actually becomes artificial intelligence. So that's the real fear for the
When the hardware becomes artificial intelligence, that's the danger?
That's the real danger.
Why is it dangerous?
Because now you have physical things that are able to interpret and move on their own. And that is really that's very scary, because it's no longer simply the software that we write, and that obviously we can write things against it, but it's the hardware that is smart enough that it's learning on its own. So
this goes back to the sci-fi movies I used to watch in the 60s and 70s, and Gigantor, and these robotic machines actually taking over and control the world. Is this why Congress is trying to control artificial intelligence? Is this why we're hearing so much about the dangers of artificial intelligence?
Well, I'll tell you. It's because we don't really know. We've been using artificial intelligence for a very long time. Siri was artificial intelligence. Spell check was artificial intelligence. All of these things had already existed for many, many years. And I'll tell you what's a little bit different now. But basically, it predicted your behavior. When you were doing spell check,
my mother did that too.
When you were doing spell check and you started to type a word and it wasn't the right word, artificial intelligence kicked in and gave you a recommendation. It said, no, this word is spelled wrong, or this is a word that you would rather do. And then when Grammarly came on, grammar software, it would even suggest to you how to write something in particular. So artificial intelligence has always been here. We haven't looked at it. The other way artificial intelligence has been used is analyzing all of this data that's being collected every single day. The government couldn't, they argue, well, people weren't able to connect 9/11. Well, the data was there, but you didn't have, the programs weren't as sophisticated to connect all of those data sets to say something, to be able to predict it. Nobody can analyze all of that data. That's why we have people called data scientists. So we've had artificial intelligence. It just didn't drop from the sky. Now, what we're dealing with now, what you've heard recently, and a lot of people are getting hyped about it, but basically what it is taking all of the information that was on the internet at the time that was public, and they put it into a model. And if you can imagine a model being a cup or a bowl, it took all of that data and stuck it in a bowl. And then the software was able, depending on your question, if your question was, how many Black colleges existed in 1959 and why were they important? The software was able to go out and search on a number of things that I just did. If you break down the question, the first thing it broke down, what is an engineering school, right? Then how many Black colleges existed? How many Black colleges had an engineering school? And why were they important? So now it's gone out and it's found all of these sources that were on the internet, and it came back with an answer for you that is almost as if it's real. You think it's real, but all it is it just cut out the cut and paste that you would have done anyway. The research that you as a journalist, you would have done that physically, but now it takes this thing a nanosecond to go out and pull it together and give you that information. So that why
does the government want to regulate this stuff if it's so good? Why does the government involved? Why are they trying to enact legislation?
Because there's a lot of bad guys and bad people out there who can abuse it.
What's one bad thing that you can share with us that people can do with artificial intelligence?
I can take this video when we're through, and I can feed it into a program, extract the audio, get your voice, and then I can have a program that has your exact voice, and then I can type in, these are called deep fakes. You can do it real easy. I did, one of my podcasts, I simply type in and it's my voice, and I didn't even speak to it. So then I can create whatever I want you to say. I also can take your picture using the data. I can take your picture, which we do as well. I've got 2 employees where we created their own avatars, right? And so they will go in and narrate something on STEM City, for example, and we simply type in the text, and it's a person, and the text will come out of their mouth. So look how you can make people think politically something's wrong. Parents have received phone calls from their children saying, I'm kidnapped, send some money. It's all fake. And I can pull it right now simply from this interview. I've got enough sampling that I can grab your voice. That is one of many bad things that can happen. Okay.
So is that similar to facial recognition and people's apprehension and fear of facial recognition?
Oh, that's a whole nother part. Different? That again is a program that's a form of artificial intelligence that's able to go back, look at all that data. You've given it some information to look at it and pull different things up. But the real part of but here's some good things of artificial intelligence, right? Let's say you're a doctor. You go into the hospital, right? Or you go in and the doctor takes all of these, pieces from you. What's your blood pressure? What have you been doing recently? The doctor takes all of that pieces. Have you noticed recently that your doctor's on the computer most time when you go in for a physical and they're typing things in? Well, assuming that you have artificial intelligence, and now we can take every medical record. Assume you take every medical record that's available. You take all of these searches. When people go to Google and say, oh, why do I have a sore throat? You take all of that information and you put it in that big punch bowl. Now, a patient can come in and your doctor can say, 53-year-old man complaining of a stiffness in his stomach, and put in a couple of other pieces. And the artificial intelligence can look at all of that medical history, which we would call a meta-analysis, and kick out something that is very, very close to what's bothering you. Now, think about what's being saved. All of a sudden, lab tests, all of the things that you would have to go through. Now the doctor's been able to narrow it down to most likely what's really bothering you while you're still in that office. Wealth of information is there, but the problem is we can't analyze. It's too tough. It's too much information for us to analyze. And that's what an artificial intelligence model can do.
So why does the government feel, you talked about bad things, bad people, right? Is Facebook a bad thing with bad people? When we look at that in terms of what they're doing with their information, artificial Meta, is Facebook with all of its, what do they say, got like 1 billion users and gathering information that people can't have access to? Is that a good thing?
Well, I don't see right now Facebook laying over that much AI. I mean, they're doing a lot of predictive things, where they can look at, your behavior online, which is AI, by the way, where they have these models to serve up what you should look, what posts are going to be on your Facebook page or what ads you see. That's all based on artificial intelligence looking at everything that you've looked at. That's what TikTok does. It serves up certain kind of videos for you, and it will even send those videos to you based on past behavior, based on what it's seen from you. As I said, I don't think any of it is bad. It's what bad people might do. And I don't know, I'm not close enough to any of these folks' businesses. I'm sure that everybody does everything that's legal. I think what the government is doing, and it makes sense, we do regulate, all kinds of research. We say there's certain things that you can't do. You can't do cloning, right? There's ethics that are involved. What is happening now is a very important discussion. The power of AI will continue to grow, and it will grow very, very quickly. But we're in a spot now where it's still in its infancy. And now are the times to look at what guardrails we need to put up. There's nothing, Mike, that stops me from hiring a company to go and get your healthcare records. There's nothing. There's nothing for your employer. They can find it. They can hack a system to do it. But you know what stops your employer from doing it? You can sue them. There's guardrails up there. Just because you can do something doesn't make it legal for you to do it. So Congress and others are taking a hard look at this about what you can and you should not be doing, what kind of research might be funded. Don't forget our government. There would be a lot of things we use every day, like the internet, would not exist without government funding. The government paid for the research that created what we use today. So all of these guidelines and how the government looks at it is going to drive research dollars from places like the National Science Foundation, for the Institute of Health, for government agencies, Department of Defense. So we need to get our arms around this stuff rather than, getting caught. And think about the regulation, by the way. These regulators, they're not like you and I. It takes them, the technology comes out so quickly, it might take a regulator 3 or 4 years to even figure out what was going on. The stuff was already out there. So we need to get in front of some of this stuff.
Well, Dr. T, I know we're down to the last 7 minutes, and I wanted to play a wonderful video that kind of explains STEM City, but can you talk to us about STEM City? I believe you were the founder of STEM City USA and what the purpose of it was. I know we've got a couple of slides, and I don't want to take up the time to play the video because it takes us away from you. Can you talk to us about
the video? Is really great for your audience to see.
Let's play the video. Can we play that video? Is that okay?
Then I'll tell you why it's so important as we close out.
Fantastic. Hey, let's play that video.
It struck me a long time ago that if we're able to say kids act a certain way because of the negative influences in their lives, the role models that they see on the street corner and places like that, if we're willing to buy into negativity, then why can't we buy into positive things? We've built over the years a strong community of at least 30,000 active people that we can reach out to any given day. And why do they do this? Because they feel they're being part of this community. They are part of something greater, and that they're surrounded by people who are like-minded like them. We are where we are because of the progress of those who came before us, but we're not obligated to those who came before us. We're obligated where we are now and how we move forward. And how do we do this with integrity? How do we do this with a passion?
What if you could build your own city? A place where every child can find nurturing people to help them achieve their full potential. A place where every adult can access job training support. Where health education is abundant. Where social justice ruled the land. A place without limitations. Welcome. You have arrived at STEM City USA. It is what every city should be. A safe and trusted community where you can find people and resources to help you become everything you are and beyond. STEM City is unlike anything you have ever experienced. It is a digital twin of the world around you, only better. STEM City is about energy and soul renewal. It is more than a digital world. You can almost feel the power of live cultural events, music, and theater. STEM City promises a better future for children with caring mentors and hands-on activities with dedicated tutors to support our youth. STEM City is your passport to a healthy lifestyle, with weekly events addressing our community's many issues. STEM City is your financial well-being, with helpful information on wealth management, career advancement, job training, and so much more. STEM City is the community you deserve. It is the city where your dreams can come true. STEM City USA, a place in the sky that is accessible to all who reach for the stars.
Dr. T, man, that was powerful. We got 4 minutes left. I am just going to ask one question. Are you going to come back and join us one day in the near future?
Absolutely. You can't get rid of me, because we haven't really talked about what we're doing with STEM City, how we're going to change our community. We're going to people are going to be able to own their data. They will be able to set up a store right there. Anything you can do physically, you're going to be able to do in the metaverse. Wow. And you're going to be able to make money out of it. You're going to be able to change your kids' lives. You know, we're offering courses like mental health. We're doing training for students online during the pandemic. Thousands of kids who couldn't get into the classroom were in STEM City. Every single day, something is happening in STEM City. 2 weeks ago, I gave a seminar for Reverend Al at the National Action Network. Yesterday, we have STEM City activities every Saturday at Operation Push, all over the place. So what I want to tell your listeners, hold tight, because there's a real opportunity here for you. And when this thing is opening up right now, which is why all of the big companies are trying to figure out what's the next round. How do they stay relevant? Because this new technology, Mike, this new transformational technology is changing the world. And I want to come back and talk about that.
Wow. Hey, well, I appreciate you being here today. And I'm going to give you, we got 1 minute. I am mesmerized, right? As I know our viewers are. And so if they go on to www.stemcity.com, I think we have the address up there. What will they find out? How can they engage? Is this an opportunity for them to get information or be part of something? What is exactly that when they go there, they'll find out?
First of all, it's Disneyland. Just go in and start running around.
It's Disneyland? It's Disneyland?
Yeah, it's just, you don't know what you're going to find. Just run in there. All of these buildings are open. You might catch some people who are live. Just go in and start playing. It's very, very cool. But let me tell you what you will be. If you want to have an activity, if you're doing a physical activity or you want to do something online, simply go into the Deloach Center, which is right behind me. You can click it from the menu that says Resource Center. There's a form. So fill out the form and we will put you into STEM City. We will stick you into one of the auditoriums and your activity can happen. So right off the bat, you can get in. You don't need Zoom. You don't need any of that stuff. We will set you up. All you have to do is fill out the form. But man, I'm going to tell you the last thing, Mike. One last thing. You asked me what the future is. Digital, we're doing now, right this second, an AI digital library. What that is this. A year from now, you'll be able to come to STEM City and you will go into our library. Right now, you can click and a folder will drop down or, a PDF, right? A year from now, you will be able to go into that library and you will be able to say, I want to talk to Mike. And a hologram will pop up of you. And it will look just like you. It will be you. And you can say, Mike, tell me, what do you think of world events today? And you will search all of that data that we've created, that we put in the bowl, and you will be able to talk to young folks. A teacher will be able to go, Mike, into the program and say, I need a lesson plan for Blacks in engineering, and why, and that lesson plan should be aimed at fourth graders, and tell them why it's important and show them examples of Blacks in engineering. And then that AI will search 50 years of all of my magazines and all of the conferences and all of the multimedia and all of the pictures, and it will generate within 2 seconds a week-long license of a lesson plan for the teacher. So this is why AI is cool, because the time you have to spend researching, the time it takes a teacher to write a lesson plan versus teaching the kids. Imagine giving that to that teacher right away, and that teacher can spend her or his time with the babies. That is the real beauty of what we're going to be able to do.
Dr. T, this is apt. I am almost in tears, man, just because I'm getting more comfortable because I've got guidance and I've got someone that's educating me, as I'm sure our viewers are. Put the website back up there, please, so that our viewers, as he said, go walk around the city, go take a look. I'm going to talk to Dr. Taborn. I don't want to put him in a precarious spot now, and see if we can't get him back on within 4 to 5 weeks again, so we can take this thing further. Hey, listen, I appreciate you. I can't tell you how amazed I am at what you presented us, and I know we got to go. You've been watching 60 Minutes in Black America. Here we are bringing information to our communities across the country relative to the metaverse, artificial intelligence, with the amazing Dr. Taborn telling us what to expect and guiding us in our knowledge and giving us access to information that can continue to grow our knowledge and and help our young people as well. Tune in next week, same time, same place, 60 Minutes Black America. Thank you so much, Dr. Taborn. Shania Johnson, congratulations to you. Rest in peace, Jim Brown. Have a great week. Thank you so much.